WholeOfEngland here, and today we've got a pretty astonishing replay from the user TheBradford. Now, he's playing in the Atago Black, which is just the black variant of the Atago, and I mean, as you've probably seen by the title and thumbnail, he performs pretty damn well in this thing. I mean, the Atago, I was having a look at it, and it does seem to be a pretty amazing ship anyway, just some generally good specs, such as just amazing top speed, it's got really low detectability, you know, it's got pretty amazing torpedoes as well, and Bradford definitely makes the most of them. Now, in this video, you'll also sort of learn how powerful a lemming train can really be, especially when they use, I guess, their power to their advantage, but at the same time how a lemming, it can also lose you a game and lose you pretty much all map control if you don't do anything with that lemming. I mean, at the moment, obviously the battle has just begun, so obviously all the players are currently sitting entirely at the top of the map, so they're not really going to be doing much anyway. However, you will soon see exactly what happens with pretty much the majority of these players. Now, Bradford's gone down the actual, down towards the D cap, and I mean, obviously due to his low detectability, I mean, if there was no island there now, I mean, he still wouldn't be spotted if a destroyer just went into the cap, so now probably when he does peek over, he will get spotted, but even so, it's got pretty amazing detectability. Now, he is firing high explosive because, I mean, the one problem with the Atago is, well, it's not really a problem, it's just the fact of the armor piercing just isn't really the best here. So, I mean, you do primarily use your high explosive shells just because they've also got, I was about to say, pretty amazing fire chance of 17% without any modifiers, and he proceeds to actually get a fire, so very nice from him. And it does look like the Lazo's not putting it out, or at least not yet, so he's actually managing to get a bit of damage out here. Now, I mean, he has just taken a bit of damage here, Bradford has, but I mean, another good thing about this ship is the fact that it's actually got a repair party as well, so I mean, you can just, you know, repair any of this damage that you do take, apart from obviously sit down torpedo damage. So it means he's going to be able to stay alive for a lot longer, and that's going to prove to be very valuable towards the end of the game. Now, yeah, so with the lemming, you can currently see now the majority of ships are now coming towards the D cap this side. So you've got the Bismarck and King George, which are definitely not committing to the A cap. I think maybe the Bismarck's got the most potential there. I mean, the Dallas is not really going to survive against an NC Agonizer now, and whatever else is there, and the rest of them are sitting on towards the D cap. Now, the thing is, I mean, you've got a lemming train, but the problem is this team doesn't really use it to its advantage, as you can see all these ships are here, but they're not actually doing anything. So, I mean, if you've got this giant force, what you should do is use it to push. You know, you all start pushing and you just use numbers to your advantage because, you know, it's literally a fact of they can't stop all of us sort of thing, you know, if you're pushing down and use your numbers to your advantage. But here they don't really do that. Most of the battleships just kind of sit there and really snipe, I guess, and it's actually up to Bradford and this mmorpg just up next to him to really do most of the pushing here. And whilst I've been talking, he's just really been racking up the damage here. I mean, that Lazo is just peeking around the corner. So it's only really in, I guess, situations like you're seeing right there where armor piercing would do something on like a flat broadside, but otherwise it doesn't really do too much. And manages to get a nice penetration there. Now, on the other hand, you can see on the other team, you know, they're not so much lemminging, I guess, as they've got quite a few of their ships, you know, on the A cap, and they're capping it, and they've got the entirety of that side of the map under their control because there's no, I guess, counter. You know, the Dallas was wiped out, meaning that, oh yeah, okay. I'll talk about the anti-air in a second, but yeah, so you can see, you know, they've got the entire side of that map, meaning they can sort of pincer this team. So if our team stays, you know, at the top here, then they're going to get countered from two sides because they're going to be pushed from the bottom of D, and then they're also going to be pushed from, you know, coming from B that came from the A side. Now, yeah, so I mean, you can see that Bradford has got the actual defensive AA consumable as well as fighters, and that's because, unfortunately, the one thing with this ship, it's not really got very good AA at all. So having stuff to boost is pretty necessary, especially when you've got a carrier or two on the enemy team, and you start getting focus, you're going to sort of need that. So, I mean, that's a fair enough choice from him. Now, I mean, you know, some people down the middle as well, they are rushing down mid, which is fair enough. I mean, I think someone actually does make a Flambas reference there, just because, you know, he always goes down the middle. And that's what seems to be happening there, but unfortunately, the friendly Fubuki has been taken out. As well as that, I mean, I've not actually showed you the scoreboard here, thinking about it, and thankfully he is actually top tier as well, so he is the tier 8 and the lowest star at tier 6. This does give him somewhat of an advantage being in this ship. I mean, in a tier 10 game, he'd be probably bottom tier, so he has got a bit of an advantage with terms of that. But already you can see they're currently 2 ships down, and yeah, you can see the anti-air is not particularly doing too much. I mean, he has got fighters up now, so they're finally engaging, which is oddly quite surprising, as fighters don't usually engage very often, which is quite nice, but it doesn't look like they actually shot anything down. It was actually his anti-air that did something. And yep, so at this point, you are now noting that, yeah, this friendly team, they're still not doing anything. They're just pretty much sitting there, taking what shots they can, and they're just purely letting the Amagi and the Atago to actually do the pushing here. And already, I mean, it's, we are somewhat far into the game, but he has actually managed to do a pretty decent amount of damage here. I mean, 45, well, he's nearly at 50k already, and he's not really taking too much damage. I mean, he has just used his second repair party here. Or is that his first? No, that's his first. I mean, he's not really sustained too much damage anyway, which is quite impressive actually, considering there are quite a few ships here. But the majority are on the other side of the map, and unfortunately the anti-air here is very loud. But now this is where the power of a lemming train comes in, because as you can see, there is a King George currently, I guess, taking out the guys on, the middle here. He's taking out the graph speed, but the graph speed does have torpedoes, so it can damage him there. And this Amagi is about to get knocked out, but not before the friendly Amagi gets knocked out. And also, this is where the 10km torpedoes come in pretty well as well. I mean, the firing angles aren't the best. I mean, well, the angles themselves are amazing. You can fire pretty much front on, but if you want to actually fire both sides, then you're going to have a bit of a problem here. But because they're 10k, it means that he can actually fire against this Ranger without really needing to give it too much thought. But anyway, as I was saying, is with the Lemming, so they've already knocked out the King George, so I'm assuming he got hit by torpedoes, that's why he died so fast. And now the entire of the enemy team that was on the left side and down the middle can now lemming up and start knocking everyone out that's just kind of sitting there. They have actually started moving forward now. They've realised that they're in a bit of danger. But at this point, I mean, Bradford's now all the way over at this side of the map, so I mean, they're not going to be able to provide too much support. But yeah, as I was saying, it's the fact of lemmings when they actually work together. When a team works together, I mean, surprisingly enough, games go quite well. And that is what looks to be happening over here, and he does actually manage to get a Ranger, securing his first kill. Oh, there we go, his first kill, and sitting just under 100,000 damage, which is quite nice, and already got a really nice amount of torpedo hits there too, so too. And now he's engaging the Monarch. Now, this Monarch is actually a pretty unusual battleship player, or at least a British battleship player, because the one thing that are, I guess, notable about British battleships are the fact that they've got a ridiculously high fire chance. However, this Monarch is firing armor piercing as well, which, I mean, is commendable, actually, because it's usually people just spam it, so him actually firing armor piercing is actually very good. I mean, this made me cringe a bit, because Bradford got incredibly lucky there, and did not get Citadel then, which is very good, so I'm assuming the armor got overmatched, and that allows Bradford to get a full torpedo strike there and finish off the actual Monarch, doing an additional 40,000 damage, which is very impressive. I mean, it does fire his other salvo off, but I mean, it's not too much of an issue because from the looks of it, he's also got the torpedo armament expert as well, so I mean, it reduces his reload by 10 seconds, and by the time he actually goes to engage anyone else, then they should have reloaded. And that pretty much there, that flank was taken out primarily by him and the Amagi, so there's not really too much you can really thank the team for here. I mean, let's have a look at the actual kills here. Yeah, so no one's really got kills here. I mean, I can't see anything in terms of damage because I wasn't looking at what the other teammates were doing. But even so, he's done 143k pushing down a flank, and we're just about to get halfway through the game. So I'd say he's definitely helped in regards to this. Now, there is now a cyclone coming in, meaning he's not really going to be able to do too much. I mean, he probably could fire here. I mean, there's a few situations here where he probably could have sort of buffed his damage up even more. I mean, yeah, so there's laser here, so he could have got some speculative shots using. So, I mean, if you just look really here on the minimap, I'll zoom in. You can see you've got your, I guess, lead target indicator. Not lead target indicator, but sort of where your shells are going to be when you fire. So, I mean, the moment he's aiming over here, and the shells will land there. So you could technically blind fire using this because someone else is actually spotting him and updating him live on the map, so he could possibly get more damage. But at the moment, well, it looks like he didn't need to anyway, but I mean, in future he probably could have done that as well. I mean, I did actually have a look at this guy's stats as well, and, he's not new to the game, 3,000 games, and you know, it doesn't seem like this is a one-off in the Atago as well, because, I mean, on average he got, I think it's like 71,000 damage and the 63% win rate, so he's definitely a very good player and knows exactly how to play the Atago, which is quite good. But he managed to get very lucky here and got the perfect circumstances to get the result he did. At this point, you know, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, this entire flank over here on the left has then just knocked out pretty much everyone at the back here. I mean, the Vladdy and the North Carolina have obviously ran their way, and the Fiji and the York are now starting to take the caps from the other side just to, I guess, mitigate the points, because they would be losing pretty fast at this point. And it's quite good they're going, because they are quite fast ships. But I guess the one problem from the enemy team here is because now they are sort of, I guess, acting as a lemming here, is they're not really defending any of their cap points, because they're all coming around, and actually the Vladdy did just knock out with the Cleveland, so that does now, I guess, set the ships to an equal level here, so 5 versus 5, but you'll see that does change very quickly. And the thing is, he's still got another 100,000 damage to go, so you can see it's not over for carrying him just yet, and there we go. So yeah, he did actually start firing speculatively and managed to get 2 shots, which is quite good, so he just keeps on doing that for now. I can understand why he'd be a little bit cautious, just for the fact, I mean, if, let's say, you know, the cyclone just stopped all of a sudden, he was in a bad, I guess, angle, then he could come under a bit of fire. Now, fortunately, it is a Monarch, a Gneisenau, and a Graf Spee. They are all pushing the Vladivostok and the North Carolina. I was about to say, we don't know exactly how much HP these guys are on, and the North Carolina actually just knocked out the Graf Spee, but there is also a Vastaras. However, the North Carolina is giving a pretty wide angle to that Gneisenau, a pretty flat angle actually by the looks of it on the map, meaning he's not going to be lasting too much longer, as he's been taking some pretty massive salvos there. And he doesn't really seem to be changing his course too much, meaning he's going to be in a bit of trouble pretty soon. Now, I'm quite happy that Bradford does hold his torpedoes here, because you'll see that he will need those pretty soon. And yeah, there we go. So the Monarch is there, and 7 game, we're going to see how much the Vladivostok has in a second too. So, I mean, Bradford's taking this opportunity here at the moment, whilst these guys aren't really getting, well, these guys are taking the actual flak. Well, yeah, there we go. 4,000 damage. They're taking sort of this sort of full, yeah, there we go. 1. I was hoping this Bonnet could have got a double strike there, because that would have been quite good. But they're taking the full brunt of this attack, really, and both of those get wiped out pretty much simultaneously. And again here, Bradford gets ridiculously lucky. I mean, obviously, this Monarch player wasn't really doing what the other Monarch did, and he thankfully had high explosive loaded, as you're about to see here, because I was like, oh no. But thankfully he had high explosive. They shattered on the side of his armour. I mean, the Gneisenau, he did have armor piercing loaded, but thankfully those actually overmatched and went straight through. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. He's already knocked out one of the ships with his torpedo and got a second hit on the Gneisenau. But yeah, those went straight through, like, they just went straight through the armor on the other side and just overpenned there, which is very good. Now, as I was saying, for the actual torpedo angles here, this is what's very good as well. I mean, there we go, he's just got his torpedoes away. I mean, they're going to all hit there. And there we go, he manages to get a second ship, so you can see he definitely uses his torpedoes a lot and does drop quite a few of these off. And now it's like, right, okay, this guy as well as North Carolina are the last alive. I mean, the North Carolina isn't here yet, but even so, it's just the fact that, right, he can only see the Vastaras, so he might as well start firing on him. And does actually manage to get quite a few hits, and that's already brought him to 234,000 damage, which, that is a good amount of damage at tier 10. But this is what made this replay sort of catch my eye, because I'm like, well, it's not a tier 10 game, this is a tier 8 game, and he's gotten this much damage, so he's definitely done something quite impressive. And speaking of North Carolina, there he is now. So, I mean, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to give this a watch and see what I think, and I'm quite glad I did, because obviously you're seeing this now as I'm showing you guys this replay, because it just looks just generally really impressive, and does manage to dodge those torpedoes quite nicely there. And I mean, they are Vastaras torpedoes, so they wouldn't do quite as much, but even so, with 20k health and no repair party, you don't really want to be taking any unnecessary damage at this point, because he can't really do anything to combat that. And as I was saying with the Fiji and New York, they have gone and taken the C&B cap, and that has pretty much allowed this team, even though the enemy team has got the point majority at the moment, you know, Bradford's team now has the sort of earning potential, I guess, in terms of, you know, what they can get, because they were getting a lot more per second. That should catch up way before the actual timer runs out. And at this point, I mean, yeah, the North Carolina starts turning his guns here, so I mean, he speeds up, but still gets a few more shots over, just to get a tiny bit more damage. I mean, this North Carolina is now getting absolutely wiped out by the Fiji and the York, and then obviously the Atago is just trying to set some fires here just for a little bit of extra damage just to help out. But I mean, the North Carolina, yeah, with the rate of fire that these ships have got, I mean, he doesn't really have much chance. You can see him just slowly being chipped away. And yeah, there are torpedoes coming in, but he is being slowly chipped away and allowing, you know, it's not allowing him really too much room here because, I mean, he's got one shot or at least one salvo every 30 seconds or so. And these guys can fire every few seconds, getting fires. You know, it's a losing battle at this point. He's just got to try and run away and get behind the island. But with the rate he's losing the HP, it's not really going to matter. Now, Bradford does drop his actual spot. Well, yeah, his fighters here just to see if he can spot anything. But unfortunately, the Vastras seems to be further up north. I mean, there's no real catching up to him here. So it's just a fact of any damage you can get here is now going to have to be on the North Carolina. And he does manage to set a fire as well. And I think he's... Okay, yeah, he has just put that out there, but I mean, yeah, that's nearly him knocked out. Just waiting on this last salvo to get here. And there we go, 24,170. Oh, wow, okay, no, 700 damage there. And that is pretty much the North Carolina dead. Now, I mean, I will actually start speeding this up a little bit because, unfortunately, the actual Vastaras doesn't actually get spotted here. So that's why I'm speeding this up, meaning this is the most damage he's got. But I mean, I just really want to go... I just say how much of an amazing replay this was to watch, and it was just generally a brilliant performance. I mean, if he managed to get just a couple more fires or something when everyone was unspotted, then that would have been pretty amazing. But honestly, just with his performance alone here, you know, it just shows that sometimes a single player or two can really make the difference in terms of the outcome of a game. I mean, obviously, most of the time that's not the case, but in this case, I'd say, you know, Bradford definitely sort of turned the tide here, because without him taking out those two battleships, I think this would have been an almost certain loss. I mean, two pretty much full battleships versus sort of a York, a Fiji, and well, yeah, that would have really been it, because the other battleships died pretty fast as well. So I mean, that with the actual destroyer spotting them, I really don't think this would have been a win. So Bradford definitely turned the tide of the game here, and overall it's just a pretty amazing performance. I mean, yeah, we're now getting to the actual points here, so you can see there's a minute left and already they've got just under 900 points here. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely just a sort of a win at this point, as these guys did get the caps. I mean, if they hadn't, then it could have been a much closer game, but they did. So, you know, at this point, it's like, yeah, it's pretty much GG, and we're now just counting down. 30 seconds left. I mean, it is quite a shame that they didn't spot the Vastras, because I think just the icing on the cake to this game would be him getting the Kraken here. But even so, I'd say 244k damage is pretty alright, I'd say, you know. I mean, looking at his stats as well, I mean, this was only about 11,000 off his top damage in the Gross Carthus, so, you know, this was a pretty crazy battle, to be honest. I mean, I think there's quite a few people that have got a lot of tier 10 ships, haven't even done this amount of damage before, so overall, very impressive. Now, I don't have the team score or any of the other stuff, but I do have the actual sort of screenshot of the results screen for the personal score here, and it looks pretty nice. I'd say it looks very nice. So, I mean, 929,000 credits here, so all of a sudden, you know, it's like that's just under 1 million, which is pretty impressive. 12,286 XP, I mean, obviously it's a premium ship, so you're not really going to be getting any sort of benefits from that unless you're converting, but he did get 2.6 free XP, alongside he did get the Confederate Award, 2 Devastating Strikes, as well as the actual High Caliber. And, yep, obviously the 244,719 damage. That's just, again, just amazing, that is, with 137 main battery hits. I mean, that's another thing with the ship as well. It's got pretty accurate guns as well. It's really accurate, so that's especially what's helped with those longer range shots. 12 torpedo hits, you know, those have definitely done a pretty healthy amount of damage there. That's definitely really helped with 12 aircraft shot down, 3 incapacitations. Unfortunately, did not get the Kraken with only 4 kills, but even so, I mean, the amount of damage he did, we can basically say it was a Kraken with how much he did. 12 fires, which is very good. I mean, I've had games with less fires in like the Thunder or the Conqueror there. 5 floodings, 3 defended, 14 secondary battery hits. That's pretty good. I'm guessing that was probably when he was versing the 3 battleships, the Monarch and then the Monarch and the Gneisenau. Overall, that was just it. You know, just a pretty amazing game. So that is it for the replay. So, I mean, I'm very glad that I found this, and if you do see this, then, you know, that was just a pretty amazing game. So, you know, keep on playing, and hopefully you'll actually get an even high score at some point and possibly top the actual damage there. But regardless, that was a pretty amazing replay. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. You know, I certainly enjoyed watching it, and then obviously showing it to you. So that's just really been a brilliant game. So if you did like this video, then make sure to leave a like. And if there's any replays or anything you really want me to specifically cover in future, then let me know in the comments below. And that's it from me. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.